Hello and welcome to the program The Desk on Global Television. My name is Anthony Momodu. Welcoming to today's edition. Today being the of July 2024, and we're in with very interesting talking points. As usual, we get the finest minds in the continent to help us look at this very interesting talking point. Today is no different, as we've got someone who is an author and also a public affairs analyst, and put in between that, someone who is also has some experience in the banking sector. Being our guest on today's edition, we've got Adabugo Gertrude Uzo as our guest on today's edition of the program, The Desk. Good evening, and thank you for joining me on the program.
Good evening, Tony. I'm glad to be with you here today.
Let's talk about the SAHEL Union, where it's been said that heads of the Economic Community of West African States began their 63rd ordinary summit in Abuja on Sunday without the counterparts from Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Are you disappointed that Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, despite efforts by the ECOWAS leaders and some other African countries and leaders to pacify them, to make them rejoin the ECOWAS body, they have bluntly refused and went on to form their own Sahel Union?
This is still a developing story, so we'll keep watching to see where it goes. But like I already said about being able to, gather people together, gather your forces together, because Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, is one of the reasons is actually to bring forth the unification of West African states. And this unification, if it is one of the primary objectives, it has failed. It has failed. And to even make it quite very, very glaring is that just a day to this 63rd convention that started on 7th in Abuja here, the three countries that formed the Sahel Union, pulled out on the 6th, just meaning that they will not be able to get pacified. And I could gather that their pacification and their returning to the fold is one of the agenda of this meeting. Yes. So it's such a conflict, actually. It's a big conflict that is a developing story, like we all know.
But the fact that these three countries, we know they are all
military.
Yes. Do you think...
And they defloated civilian regime, that's democracy, is a threat. Is a threat to West Africa. Their ability to coalesce and become one, and they're ready to support one another should anyone get attacked. And they are now free to use military ammunitions, military forces, military empowerment, because ECOWAS restricts this on them and place bans and restrictions on them, which they couldn't take, and they pulled out.
Some people have said the fact that these three countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, have foreign interference. That's why they seem to succeed or are going ahead with not agreeing to go back to ECOWAS. The fact that Russia and some other China are backing them. Is there something ECOWAS can do?
Because
or
even
the African
in number,
Union?
Even in number, the remaining states in ECOWAS is of course higher. So if a smaller number can be confident to stand alone, you should know that they have a strong backbone, a strong backup. And they are now a threat to the larger number, because there's every tendency and possibility that for them to have that confidence to stand alone, it's saying that we are equal to the task. It's saying that we can defeat you. It's saying that we are bigger than you. It's saying that we don't need you. That's just the simple body language there.
But for aside the ECOWAS now, let's look at the African Union, which is a larger body of African countries. Are you not disappointed that the African Union is not coming out to kind of try to also play a very key role to see what they can do to push?
Of course, it's a disappointment. It is, because this is type of thing that African Union should step in uninvited, because they are the larger umbrella. ECOWAS is just for the West Africa. African Union is the entire Africa, whether South Africa, all over the world, Africa. So the mother umbrella or the larger umbrella being the African Union should step in uninvited.
All right,
because it should be their first priority and responsibility. Like if you're a parent, your children, you see them going astray, you don't wait to be called to step in. You take care of your children. So if ECOWAS and other sub-African bodies are under African Union, and African Union is not doing what it's supposed to do, I don't need to say the word. You tell me whether they're fulfilling their role as a good parent.
All right, looking at what these three countries have said, they were going to have alliance, like you rightly pointed out, they're going to form this union so that they can fight external aggression. If ECOWAS and probably the AU decides to use force, do you think they can succeed against these three countries? Because we're looking at three as against 12 plus other countries. Do you think the use of force can,
use of force,
or do we need the citizens of those countries to revolt as a way of helping this move?
Use of force from external bodies outside the Sahel merge won't be encouraged. It's not encouraged. It will resemble what was happening between Israel and Palestine,
yeah.
When other forces external wants to impose. This is imposition. And democracy, which ECOWAS stands for, which UN stands, which AU stands for, it's not about imposition. These things should have been properly dialogued. It boils down to the foundational problem: African leaders that don't probably take care of things the way it should be, and African people that don't stand up for their rights. And Africans, we've been suppressed for so long by our own leaders, even under democracy, such that you get so used to, in Nigeria we call it suffering and smiling. Yeah, not that you can't give yourself happiness by yourself, you can, but there are things that government is supposed to do for you. Government is not doing it. But where's the willpower to revolt? When you see people that rise to revolt, how they ended, when the key persons, when the courts or judicial system that is supposed to probably protect you, when you look at it, you already judge the situation from the beginning to the end, and you don't see how it's going to benefit you or your generation. You pull back. You keep maintaining. Because of that natural survival instincts in humans, you know that within your small circle of being a human being existing in your small space, you are still okay. And everybody is just okay in their small corner. But as a collective force of a country, as a collective force of a continent, no. The suppression has eaten deep. That is why military coup could happen successfully in this generation and time.
So we can as well just blame the African leaders for this.
And African people too, because it is the people that become the leaders. We are all Africans. You, I. It is not the position or the seat or the chair that makes you. It is who you are that you take to that position. Become a president of Nigeria tomorrow. What you give is still who you are. So when you are just there as African leaders, as African people, as an African citizen or a Nigerian citizen, what have you been doing? How have you been living your life? So when you now become the Nigerian president tomorrow, for instance, what difference does it make? And this is a continual generational thing that has happened for years, ages after ages, centuries after centuries. That it is a repeated something, it hasn't changed. Africans keep praying for their Messiah in terms of a good leadership that will instill proper democracy.
All right, a very sad comment.